Herbals have been around for many centuries. In the medieval period, they would have been illuminated manuscripts. And then with the advent of printing, it became possible to produce many more in greater number. These two examples that we have here are John Gerard's Herbal, and they're a large format, a folio book, and very ornate. They have lots of beautiful engravings of the plants themselves. So these books wouldn't have been for the common man, they would have been quite expensive, but their popularity and that boom in popularity in the kind of 16th and 17th centuries really is testament to their kind of relevance to society as a whole. There was an expectation that every householder would have been able to identify plants and then to know how to use those plants in kind of herbal remedies and also for other uses in and around the house. There are a multitude of herbs and plants in these books. So here we have valerian, red valerian, and valerian was used to aid sleep. And then we also have the first illustration and description of the potato.
My name's Margaret Wille, and I wrote a book called A Shakespearean Botanical. One of the reasons why I became completely fascinated by Shakespeare and botany was because I found out that Sir John Falstaff has a speech where he says, "Let the sky rain potatoes." Because he was an aphrodisiac, he was preparing for an assignation, this is in the Merry Wives of WIndsor, with one of the Merry Wives in Windsor Great Park. So he's saying, "Let the sky rain potatoes, let it thunder to the tune of green sleeves, hail kissing comfits and snow eringos." So the potato has this rather interesting kind of reputation. The other mentions in there are also of kissing comfits, which is obviously because kissing, if you want to kiss someone, you've got sweet breath. And the snowy ringo is also a sea holly, and that also was considered an aphrodisiac and it was candied. What I found fascinating about Shakespeare and his references to plants is he's quite clever about them in that he knew his plants well. Undoubtedly he learned from his mother.
For countrywomen such as Shakespeare's mother Mary and his wife Anne, knowledge of herbs and their uses would have been part of their education. Just because women in this period didn't go to school, that doesn't mean they were uneducated. They were highly skilled in all the domestic arts, and the amount of knowledge needed to run a Tudor household took years to learn. They would have had an extensive knowledge of herbs and their uses. Because of this, the first port of call for medicine in the Tudor period was usually the women of the house.
Women didn't have careers, basically, and so they couldn't be physicians, they couldn't be surgeons, but women did of course have the role of nursing and caring for people, so she would have had to look after the running of the garden as well as the house. Some of the women, quite often they were quite upper class women, because they had the money to be able to do it. They were known to be dispensing medicines, they were famous for them. I mentioned several of them in the book, and the number of professional medics is absolutely tiny in the middle of the 17th century. And it's very interesting that John Hall, who was married to Susanna Shakespeare, was a physician because there was a tiny number. There were 40 licenses given in the 16th century, according to what I read. I couldn't believe it.
Hall's Croft is the home of Shakespeare's daughter, Susanna. She's his eldest daughter, born in 1583. We think that her and her husband, John Hall, moved into Hall's Croft when it was first built in about 1613. Susanna's husband, John Hall, was a doctor. There wasn't already a doctor in Stratford at this time, so John Hall probably came to the town to set up his practice, and by the time he married Susanna, it looks like the practice was quite successful.
I've done a lot of research on this home and this woman. So Susanna would have lived here with her husband, John, and their little girl, Elizabeth, and they would have had a garden, but it wasn't just to be pretty. It would have been to grow herbs and grow treatments. John Hall, Susanna's husband, was a local doctor, and he would have used those plants in his medicines. And Susanna probably would have used them herself. She would have tended the garden, and it also would have smelt beautiful, it would have looked beautiful, but they also used it for things that they couldn't buy, like herbal medicines and teas.
So part of my research has been looking into what Susanna might have been doing to help John Hall in his practice, and maybe what she was doing while he was away from home. So she might have been receiving patients at home who'd come to visit John and found that he wasn't there. The other thing that I've been looking at is how Susanna might have been involved in making medicines. Medicines at this time are made from all different types of plants and minerals, and they're often made at home. And one of the things that is expected of a good wife in this period is that she will know how to cook and to make medicines to look after the household.
So this was written by Gervase Markham and published in 1683. It was first published in 1615, and it basically is a kind of a workbook of everything that a wife should know to run their household. So we turn over, we get to this point where we're talking of the virtues of her knowledge in physic. So essentially what Markham does is lays out all the virtues that the housewife should have, and included in that is physic. So knowing how to look after the household and to prevent illness and then treat illness as well.
Tudor women grew many herbs in their garden. This one, rosemary, is for remembrance. It was used in commemorating the dead, but medicinally, it was also meant to help with memory. Other herbs you might find in a Tudor garden are marjoram and lemon balm. Marjoram is good for the brain and the stomach, and lemon balm is meant to help calm an anxious mind and prevent melancholy.
What I found fascinating was the multi-purpose of some of these herbs. They could be used for medicine, but they could also be used for other things. One of the most extraordinary ones that John Gerard says that if somebody's got an ague, a fever, it was a very good idea to bring willow into the house. Willow boughs, and of course willow is salix, and it is the basis for aspirin, really. It turns out that it's grounded in fact,
Although there are many herbals written around this time, the domestic history of herbal medicine has often been lost because the knowledge was passed down from woman to woman, mother to daughter, but like much of women's history, it was rarely written down. As a result, many Tudor recipes and remedies have been lost to time.